Today we have actually quite a wonderful saint. He's a perfect Advent saint, defender of the Incarnation. He was a friend of angels and a cherisher of the cross. They say that when he was born and then taken to the baptismal font, after his baptism, that the angels lifted him from the font. And then his whole life he would be protected, even visibly, by the holy angels. There was another time, it was sort of like a St. Thomas Aquinas type situation, and there was an evil person trying to tempt St. Eusebius, and the angels were there to hold the doors closed so nobody could get in. And the evil person later on repented of this. And then finally it was seen that at Mass, whenever he offered it, the angels would assist him. Even now, though, the angels do assist the priest, and they say St. Michael the Archangel is always there to guard and protect the chalice filled with the precious blood so that the priest doesn't accidentally knock it over. But in his case, Eusebius often saw the angels. Well, as I said, he was a defender of the Incarnation. You hear a lot about this awful character, Arius. He is one that denied the divinity of Christ. And so the Arian heresy in the time of Eusebius was very rampant. When Constantine died, the Emperor Constantine, his son Constantius became the emperor, only he, unlike Constantine, was totally infected by this heresy. So St. Eusebius was consecrated a bishop, or was chosen to be consecrated, but upon the day of the ceremony, all of the Arians, they locked the doors of the church so that Eusebius could not be consecrated. Well, he knelt down outside the church and began his prayers anyway. And miraculously, the doors were opened. And then there's a story, too, about how he one time put out a heretic bishop from his church. And then he went ahead and consecrated another bishop. His name was Denis. And Eusebius would make him the bishop of Milan. Well, eventually, Constantius, he developed a deep-seated hatred for St. Eusebius, and he called together a council. Imagine that. The emperor actually called together a council of bishops, and they were going to condemn Athanasius. Well, Eusebius would have none of that. But eventually, when he found out that 29 Catholic bishops had signed this condemnation, then he reluctantly went. And he went there and he slapped down on the table the Nicene Creed. And he said, "You all must sign this." That's the way a bishop should act in cases like that. In any case, the Catholic bishops at that time, they all repented of what they had been led into. And then the story goes on. He had to get to Milan to get to that council I just mentioned, the false council. He had to get to Milan, but the ship, which would have taken him across the water, it delayed an awful long time, and he couldn't wait any longer. So he prayed, and the ship, without any captain, anyone to steer it, the ship actually came across the water to him and then took him back safely so he could then attend that false council and again defend St. Athanasius. Well, after that, Eusebius was taken and he was beaten, and then he was exiled from his see. But once Eusebius got out of prison, he went to St. Athanasius to defend him. Another council was called that defended Athanasius, and condemned the Arians. And this is pretty much the life of Saint Eusebius. You know, I was thinking of it today. In sports, sometimes you have a tag team, or in children's games, you have a tag team, when two people team up on the others. Well, in this case, it's a spiritual sort of tag team. They say that Saint Eusebius, he kicked all of the heretical Eastern priests out of the West. He kicked them out of Italy and sent them back into the Eastern Church, where St. Athanasius took the heresy out of the heretical priests. It was truly a spiritual tag team of great saints. Well, they say, I'm not sure which actually happened. Some say that Eusebius died a peaceful death at a very old age. Some say that when he went back to his see, that he was stoned to death by the Arians. I'm not sure which is actually true. I'll do some more research on that. But know this, he was a great saint who suffered on behalf of the Incarnation. He handled his cross with as manly a virtue as you can. So much so that at the end, despite the fact that all those bishops, the Arian bishops, had persecuted him and injured him, when the council came and he and Athanasius took part in the true council, they both decided to show leniency to all of the bishops who had later on come back to Catholicism. That's how we should all act. Whenever some injury is done, or perceived injury, to always take the side of leniency, not being overly strict. Let's learn that from this great Saint Eusebius.